And it's time for us to talk relationships. And today on the Love and Relationship segment, we're going to be discussing how does your work-life balance affect your relationship, right? And I think it's a very important question for us to have answered properly. And we have no better person than Leticia Ohene-Effah, who is the co-founder of Lead a Freak International and also the co-host of Family Life on City FM 97.3. All right. Good morning, Leticia.
Good morning, David.
How are you?
Very well, thank you. Yourself?
I'm very well, thank you. Thank you for joining us this morning on Breakfast Daily.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, so let's get right into the topic. Let me just first of all start by asking why the need for the conversation about balance in the first place?
I would say that the need for this conversation has come about because most of us live our lives as though everything is a rite of passage. So, for example, most of us have bought into this norm that you must go to school, get a job, then it means you have to have a girlfriend. There's even all sorts of terminologies when you're leaving uni and you don't have a girlfriend. So you have a girlfriend, then you have basically that should lead into marriage, then it leads into babies, then.
Yeah.
So we're not being as conscious about the life that we're living as much as we should be, which is why the whole conversation or the discussion has become invariably important.
Now, when we look at work-life balance, how can work-life be unbalanced, if we can look at it from that perspective?
Well, first and foremost, I think a lot of us also, again, assume that once we talk about balance, it means that if you have 24 hours in the day, you must have 12 of it that goes to work and 12 of it that goes to family.
Is there something wrong with that thinking?
There's so many things wrong with that thinking.
Okay. Show us.
It gives us unnecessary pressure to begin with. There's no way you can equally divide all the pies almost every single day. So yes, we have routines. Yes, I'm a sticker for planning and having routines and everything. But you also need to be a little bit relaxed because you never know what's going to happen in your day. So if you think about it that way and you're spending X amount of hours in traffic, for example, then it means that you're struggling. So already your whole emotional psychology is skewed towards this, I'm already stressed about, thinking about the fact that I must give equal portions of my day to family and to work. It's not possible.
Yeah.
So we're multifaceted as a people. You have, before you got into this marriage, there's a nuclear family, there's an extended family. You have your life, your health, and your fitness to take care of. You have your spiritual life to take care of. You have work to take care of. And even inside of work, there are different aspects. So you must continue to grow. How are you growing? So there's so many different areas of our lives that we must pay attention to on any given day. Otherwise, we're feeling the stress and then we burn out. So burnout typically happens not because we're working too hard, but because we're giving too much attention to the wrong things at the wrong time.
Okay.
This is why all this conversation becomes important.
So can you give us an example of a wrong way work and life are working and the consequences so that we can have a practical feel of it?
All right. One of the easiest examples to give is, for example, a lot of bosses have challenges with work-life balance, interestingly. And part of the reason we have all these problems is because either we're not delegating enough or we've delegated and doing the people's work and still keeping them on the job. So what tends to happen is that not only are you dealing with somebody's full drama, you're dealing with yours and neglecting your home. Because you're doing multiple tasks, not necessarily because you need to, but because that you're doing other people's work. So that's a typical one that affects a lot of people with line managers, if you will. If you're a line manager, you're a senior manager, whatever position that is, as long as you have people reporting to you, it tends to happen that way.
Okay.
So you're consistently running because you haven't set up the systems necessary to get your subordinates, if you will, or colleagues to do their work optimally. So then what happens is you keep doing that work. And as long as you keep doing that work, you're going to run into problems. So those are some of the reasons why we have these challenges, unfortunately. And then we get into this successful failure syndrome because then our entire attention is focused on work and not at home. But our families do not need too much of our attention in terms of time. What they need is the quality of the time. So, for example, most of us are not fully present when we're at home, especially since this COVID came up. I've been working from home most of the time. And for the most part, I am on my phone or I am on my laptop. So I consciously need to craft a time during the day when I know, for example, that this is not work time. My phone is either off, away from me, and I'm fully present with family. So we need to consciously create these spaces. Otherwise, what we find is that it's easy for you to work. So it's a default thing. You wake up in the morning for some of us and we just want to work. So you get up and you just work and you forget the rest of the aspects of your life. But whatever you don't feed will die is what we need to know. So if you're not feeding your family, there will no longer be a relationship. There's no connection. Everything is just transactional. We must take the time to be able to feed the family properly. Every person has a choice. They have an emotion. They have a will. They have a mind of their own. They have a body. And we need to pay attention to all of those things.
Okay. So let's take a relationship where one partner is work-oriented, the other partner is people-oriented. Can such a relationship still function healthily with the balance that we're talking about?
Absolutely. Absolutely. We don't have to become caricature versions of other people to thrive or to have meaningful connections. What you do is have conversations around it and have some agreements. So boundaries is a good place to start. Having some shared values is a good one. So we're all different. So if you're a head and I'm a tail, it doesn't make any of us any lesser. It's the interpretation we give to it that usually gives us problems. So what you need to do then is have conversations around it and create some convergence. So I may not like to be in spaces where there are too many crowds. The other person may want to do so. How often can the person do that? You have to have a conversation around it. And you have to free the person to do it. Because that's the only way they also grow from within. So what are the boundaries? Just set the necessary boundaries and allow each person to flourish is what I would say. But there's nothing wrong with having, as a matter of fact, that complementarity is important and must be harnessed in a relationship.
Okay, so looking at the scenario you've just given us, right? If one person says that my work is so important to me, if I don't work, we can't eat. So that takes priority over everything else and makes that such a big deal that it starts to impinge on, the functionality of the relationship. How do we resolve this situation? Because not only are they're saying that they love their work so much, but it's not just about that. It's about the fact that they also feel that, look, work has to always come first. Work has to always come first.
Okay, so first and foremost, we're driven by our actions and our values, okay? Our beliefs and our values is what I want to say. That's what we're driven by. So it's important when you're going into a relationship, even before you go into a relationship, to understand what your drivers are. So for some, it could be a belief that says you must work hard if you want to succeed. That's a belief that's driving that person. Then, of course, work will be paramount to anything else in their lives. And we must be in awareness of that. Once you've come into awareness of that, you don't stay there. The question is, how do you create the balance? You have 24 hours in a day. You cannot work for 24 hours in a day. It's practically impossible. So you need to take away some of the other distractions to give that time to your family. You can say, for example, in my home, we both work, and oftentimes we work together. We run Leader Free together.
Okay.
So one of the boundaries we have is that on Sundays, we do our best not to work. Unless it's an emergency, you don't work on Sundays. It's family time. And we don't work after between the hours of 7 and 9. It's family time. So we've created these little spaces that helps us to be fully present with our families, even though, yes, we do prioritize work, because for us, we haven't quite separated work from ourselves. It's a part of us. And it's a ministry. So we do this, and it's inseparable. Nevertheless, our families matter as well. So we create those spaces, and we schedule it, and we block them on our schedules. So it makes it happen.
Okay. So let's take another scenario where the couple, their jobs are not, in sync in terms of timing. Okay, so one arrives at home from work when the other is just about to leave for work. So they hardly get time to spend with each other. How can they create this work-life balance thing, looking at this peculiar situation?
Again, it doesn't happen all the time. It may happen perhaps
all right, so if you're watching us and you have any comments or questions, kindly use the hashtag BreakfastDaily for us to hear what you're saying. And then also the WhatsApp line is 0550 585-832. We'll definitely like to hear from you and your comments. And maybe you can also share with us some of your experiences as far as your relationships are concerned. Okay. So, Leticia, you were saying that you were responding to the scenario where the couple, one leaves and the other one arrives.
So what I was saying is that we can sync our calendars.
Okay.
For example, I share, when I do my calendar, for example, I do share it with my spouse, so he knows what my schedule is.
Okay.
We sit and find out where are the spaces that we can take advantage of this week, this day. So it's consciousness. We just need to bring consciousness to bear when it comes to our relationships. Relationships take work. And research after research after research has shown that it enables us to live longer and happier.
Yeah.
So the two must be taken care of at the same time. You can't leave one and do the other. Therefore, you must find the spaces and create them. So if that's the situation where you're coming and going, it's not always the case. There are times where that is the case. When it is not the case, make time for one another within that time that you have and make it meaningful. And in making it meaningful, it means put that phone away, put work away, be mentally, emotionally, physically present with that person whom you claim means so much to you. If the person means so much to you, you must be able to make some sacrifices.
Yeah.
And really spending time with your spouse it's not a sacrifice. It's something that you should look forward to. So if you're not looking forward to it, then there's clearly things that must be spoken about, discussed, and resolved in order for that to happen.
Is it also possible that some people don't realize that they are not actually ready for a relationship just by the way their mind works? And so they're going to create unnecessary challenges in terms of work-life balance, as opposed to, the whole thing about, I'm a guy, she's a girl, hey, we like each other, we can date. But then for a relationship to work well, you also have to invest in the relationship. So is it possible that there are some people who are they're actually not ready for a relationship, but they just sort of go with the flow and then create problems down the line? How do we deal with those things?
Too many of us go with the flow. Too many of us go with the flow. As I said, most of us are not thinking about the relationships that we're entering. We're not defining those relationships. So you go out, you meet somebody, or even in school. Yeah. Then you buy into the pressures of society that you must be dating somebody. It's a necessary next step. You have a job, perhaps you have a house, or you're looking for one, and everybody is looking to you to marry. And then you decide that, I buy into the pressure, but nobody forces you to buy into the pressure. You have a choice. We all have a choice. And for me, I wish more and more and more that people will understand that they do have a choice. And therefore, you don't have to rush into a relationship if you're not ready for it. We need to learn to become ready for relationships before we enter. Otherwise, we're hurting a whole society. We're struggling today in this world. Everything is chaotic because most people did not think about that necessary next step before they entered it. So they're now trying to find their feet while in the process. And children are struggling at the end of the day. Adults are struggling. The couple itself is struggling, which is why we're having this conversation. Too many people are miserable in their relationships. And it's simply because we're not giving it as much attention as we would a job. I don't just take any job. You must understand, what do you stand for? What are your non-negotiables? What is it that you seek in life? All these things must be thought through before you enter into a relationship.
Fantastic. Thank you very much for speaking to us. We've been talking with Leticia Ohene-Effah, who is the co-founder of Lead Afrique International and also the co-host of Farm Life on City FM 97.3. Now, thank you very much to you, Leticia.
Hi there. We hope you enjoyed the show.
Make sure to subscribe, like, comment, and share with your friends.
This is Breakfast Daily on City TV.
Join the Breakfast Daily team Monday through Fridays from 7:30 a.m. to 10. Join us for breakfast daily, only on City TV.